Angie from Canterbury Trails Farm. Today I'm going to show you how to knit a hat using a hat loom. It's a knitting loom. These are much simpler than the sock demo that I did. These have wider, bigger pegs, and it allows you to make a hat very quickly. This is a really great project to start if you haven't ever loom knit before. If you've watched my sock video, you'll know that the sock could get a little complicated unless you're just doing a straight tube sock. You're using smaller pegs and you're using smaller yarn. This is about a 12-inch diameter. It's the average, I would say, 8-year-old kid to adult hat size. There are smaller ones for smaller kids, and I don't think anyone would need a bigger hat than this. Remember, whatever you knit on here will be larger as it's being knitted, and when it comes off, it will be smaller. Most looms will come with hat looms and scarf looms, not the sock looms, but they'll have a little extra peg at the end. That's for you to loosely tie your yarn on. I just make a little loop, so I made just a little loop. I'm just going to stick that over my little peg there. And you don't want to wrap these super tight because you are going to have to be lifting them over the pegs, and if it's tight, it's going to be harder to do. So let me wrap it around for you so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just wrapping it around. Your loop will be on the outside, like the solid, it'll look like a solid line on the inner part of the circle. Your initial one, you're going to go around twice because you must have a line of loops to knit to another line of loops. So the first time around, we're going to go around twice. So here we're almost to our first line. All right, now I'm going to go around the second time. It's a good idea to go around and just push these down. You don't want your loops to overlap. You want to have plenty of room to work. Almost, there we go. Okay, so now I'm back to my peg. So I'm going to take my hook, and you will notice that in this loom there are grooves on the peg, and that's where your hook will hook down in there. Now you can use, you can see where my pegs are sort of worn because I sort of prop this up and pull them on there. Once you get that first one locked in there so it won't come undone while you're working, you're just going to go around and you're going to pick up the first loop and you're going to pull it over the peg and over the second loop. So now you only have one loop on your peg again. You're going to go around, and I sort of push them down as I go around. That prepares it for the next line of loops that's going to happen. First thing I'm going to be making is the brim of the hat. You can make this as wide as you want. I sort of want to make a wide one on this one. And what you will do is, depending on how wide you want your brim, I would first of all think about how wide do you want the brim. Do you want it 2 inches wide? You'll need to knit 4 inches worth of knitted fabric is what you're really making, is a fabric. So when you have 4 inches is when what we're going to do is however long you want your brim. This one I'm probably going to do probably about 2.5. So I will need to knit about 5 inches of fabric. I'm all the way around now. I'm going to make another thing, another line of stitches. So when I have my 5 inches of fabric, I will stop, and then I'm going to sort of fold that up on itself, fold it in half to make my brim, and I'll join the very first row of stitches that I did, and you'll see it when it comes out. I'll be pulling that up and joining it to make the brim, sort of like folding it in half. And then after I've made that brim, that's when my hat will actually start. You can sort of start seeing, at a certain point now, the stitches will start moving farther away, and this will start, it will get tight and you'll just want to let it go. In fact, I could just let that off of there if I wanted to and just poke it through there. That way it doesn't hold anything up. So I'm going to go around, since I need to do about 5 inches of knitting fabric. I know you don't want to sit there and watch me do about a half hour's worth of work. So I am going to do my 5 inches, and then when I come back, we'll be ready to make the brim of the hat, and I'll show you how to do that. So one more time, let's just watch. I'm lifting the loops over the pegs, and you're just doing line after line. The line before hooks to the next line, and as those lines are joining and it comes out, it starts coming out of your hoop, and it sort of looks like rows of, sort of like a braid joined by other loops. Obviously everyone has seen a sweater before, and your fabric is what, like I said, you're making like a knitted fabric. I'll let you look in here so you can sort of see. You're starting to see the little bit of fabric that's growing. But I need to do about 5 inches of that in order to get the brim width that I want. Okay, so I have done my approximately 5 inches of knitted fabric. You can see that's coming up through the loom here. It's nice. You can see like the braids. Okay, so what I'm going to do to make the hat brim, let me lay this flat. I'm going to pull this up through the inside. Let me show you on another hat that I've done. This is the inside of the hat. You can see where the hat brim has been joined to the fabric beneath. So what I'm going to do is going to bring it up, and I'm going to actually use those, or I guess it's actually the first row of loops that I actually made when I first started. This is going to connect to this one. And how I'm going to do that, so first of all, I'm going to find my peg. That tells me where the top of my loom is here. I'm going to make sure my yarn is threaded through the top here so it won't get in the way, and when I start over again doing more rows, I'll be able to find it. So look at your loops, your knitting, and you'll find here is the original loop that I did. First of all, I want to pull that inside. That way it's going to be inside here, and it won't be hanging out. Alright, and I'm going to fasten that first loop over my peg. Now you can do this with your fingers, or you can do it with a hook. With this big chunky fabric like I'm using, a lot of times you can just use your fingers. I'm going to go around. I'm going to pick up the loops, the very first loops that I did, and I'm just going to go around, and I'm going to put these all on the pegs. This might seem complicated. Once you do it a few times, you realize how easy it is, and it's like, oh, and now you can do a brim. Just make sure the extra yarn piece isn't getting in your way, because it's a real pain if you have to go fish that thing out. Keep going around, find your very first loops. Now, as you see, as I come to the end here, you can see that my knitted fabric that I did is folded over, and it looks like a hat brim. Now you also look and see I have 2 sets of loops again. Okay, so now what do? I'm going to go and knit these over just like I would if it was regular knitting here. Let me put this back down. So I'm going to go around my hat, push it down as I go around, just like the rows I was making before. As I'm doing this, I'm joining that hat brim. It's becoming part of knitted into there. It's not going to be able to be opened anymore. It's going to be a double layer. Alright, now I'm back to my first peg. And you can see I have my hat brim. Alright, now what? Now I'm just going to continue to knit around and round, rows and rows, just like I was doing. I'm going to be making the body of the hat now. Here's the brim, here's the body of the hat. So a good rule is about from your wrist to the top of your middle finger, or about 8 inches, I would say, probably 7 or 8 inches. When we get ready to close our hat, it'll be drawn up and gathered in the top here. So some of your length is going to be drawn up to form the top of your hat. So if you're going to err, I would say err on the longer side because it was getting gathered up, than on the shorter side. So we're going to knit the body of the hat now. So I'm just going to do a couple rows. Obviously, again, I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me do this for like, you know, an hour. I'm going to show you how to take off the project off your loom. So you see I have the hat here, and I have cut my about, I don't know, 18-24 inches of yarn I've cut, and I have a very large needle. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go around the loom, and we're going to put that needle into each loop. Pull it out. I'm going to do this all the way around. When we get to the end, I will pull it, and it will gather the top of the hat, and then we'll make a few stitches and sew it closed. And you can see as we move around the loom, it becomes more, starts looking more like a hat. And with the last loom, you make sure you hold on to it, pull it off. You're just going to pull your yarn, it's going to gather the top. And now you can see the gather. I'm just going to take my yarn and just sort of grab a few loops there, and you're just going to make a few stitches. It's not going to really show, it'll be sort of assimilated into the stitches there. I do it from sort of like an X, so I make sure I don't have any holes, and then poke it through the center, pull it up underneath, make a couple more stitches just to sort of lock that yarn in place. And cut the yarn. And you have a hat. Been Angie from Canterbury Trails Farm. Thanks. Bye.